pretty sure we're live. I'm using a different kind of streaming thing today, and I think that we're live. I think I see the chat there. Yeah, hello, people in the chat. What I don't see is normally on YouTube some sort of like show or thing there. Look, I told you not to watch this stream. I told you. Some of you thought that you were reverse psyoped, and Jeff, I appreciate you thinking so highly of me that I would reverse psyop you today, but actually that's not really the case. I just guys, so much is going on. I haven't had time to put it in a formula that I'd be proud of. So I don't know what you guys are thinking right now. I don't know if you guys are like, James, you're way off or you're way on, and I really don't give a shit. And this is self-destructive phase I enter into when I just kind of give up on manners, give up on the idea of elbows on the table being a bad thing. I literally have my elbows right now on the table. I'm just like, fuck you, table, take my elbows. My elbows have never been scraped with some sort of a loofah because I'm a man and men are not supposed to scrape things with loofahs. It's complicated as fuck, guys. Where do we start? You guys remember the John McCain, SS McCain? I think it may be USS McCain. Let me look at this up. It's the official aircraft carrier of the United States Navy. Let's see. McCain aircraft carrier collides with vessel in what do you call that sea? Polynesian Sea? That's probably not it, but I bet if I put it there, Google will be like, this guy's an idiot, but I know what he means. McCain aircraft carrier collides with vessel in Polynesian. Yeah, 2017, a guided missile destroyer USS McCain collided with an oil tanker, the Alnic MC, near the Strait of Malacca, not in Polynesia. James, you're wrong! It was in Strait of Malacca, and the incident occurred east of Singapore. I'm not muted, right? Hey, guys, you guys doing good? And it is amazing, Chasing Mound Builders. Thank you for your courage today. I seriously appreciate that. Dude, you are always on the right side of things. And even when there's no sides, somehow you're like, I will make a side and create a right place to be. And it's just, man, I fucking thanks for being out there, dude. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for watching today, but I'm not saying you should. This is not a reverse psychology thing, okay? I've been wondering if maybe you guys are kind of annoyed because I've been sort of manic lately. I were in the Aquarian Civil War, as Jesse has said quite rightly. And the Aquarian Civil War requires that some of us are going to have to go manic, and anyone who's in Master Chief Shaman role, there's not a lot of other places they're going to put me in, guys. They're like, hey, James, you are fucking weird, dude. I think out of all the hats, we're going to put this one on you. You're going to live outside the village, James. And I'm like, wait, I have to live outside the village? Yes, but it's a special role, James. And then I bought it. I was like, oh, really? Am I special? They're like, yes, you're so special, James, that you're going to live outside society. You're going to look back at us, and you're just going to think we're all fucking poontang crazy. That's what you're going to do. And you're going to keep this to yourself because every time you're going to try and bring these nuts that you've gathered, the acorns of truth that you've gathered in the forest, you're going to bring them into the city. Going to be covered in tannins. We're going to be like, this is really gross, James. Why are you here? We're going to throw your ass out. And this is how you're going to be a part of society. And I'm like, wow, this is really special. Thanks for this honor. Do I have like a title? And they're like, no, you don't get a title. And I was like, well, but look, but why am I not just like an outcast? And people are like, James, don't call yourself that. I mean, keep going. Go ahead, go on. But do not call yourself an outcast, James. You need to come up with your own title. And I'm just like, well, fuck. So I'm a white guy living in a land of white disenfranchised people, but the white disenfranchised people are too ashamed to say they're disenfranchised. And I'm looking at the white disenfranchised people. I'm like, imagine how hard it is to feel disenfranchised and not be white. I'm just saying, if it's hard to feel disenfranchisement and you're white, imagine how hard it is to feel disenfranchised when you're surrounded by a lot of non-white people. I'm saying it's good for you. I was in Belize. I was in Costa Rica. Dude, everyone's going to be like, Costa Rica's great. And it's great. You know why it's great? Because there's a lot of racism there. It's fucking great. It's great because you're just like, hey, I did nothing to that lady, and she's fucking looking at me like I'm evil as shit. And all I did was buy 4 watermelon drinks from her. And they weren't even alcoholics, so it's not like I'm drunk. It's like I'm giving her money. And she's looking at me, and there's a sign behind her head. And it was written in some strange language, some foreign alien language, Spanish or something, spinach. She spoke spinach, and on the sign to the right of her, it said, Blanco go home, or something like that. I was immune to the spell of language in Belize, which is why my head was so fucking quiet there. When I was in Costa Rica, my head was quiet as fuck. I was in a busy city. I was on a bus with many people. There's signage everywhere, and I can't hear a word. It's welcome to the village of. Hey, make sure you have on sale now. And it's a beautiful kind of state. You start to realize that you kind of have an immunity when you don't understand something. You start to realize that you are powerful outside of a language as much as you can be powerful inside of one too, and that these things are different things. When you enter the egg, you have to porously become this sort of substance. It's slobbery. It's all over you. But when you do not speak the language for the first time, I think that man is able to see just how permeable and symbiotic they choose to be. I said you choose to be. And we're inside this war where every couple of years, every couple of decades, some new class of people wants to come out of some sort of proverbial closet. Whether it's Quakers, whether it's Christians in Rome, whether it's Native Americans who are not Native American, whether it is homosexuality, whether it's transgenderism, whether it's white nationalism, whether it's anti-Semitism, all of these things are people who want to express themselves and are too afraid to do so. And this is called the curling of a fern. It's a fiddler. You've seen that. It's a fiddler. It's a fractal fiddler that's spun around itself, and it's about to unfurl. And what you see now is the beauty of the potential of what's about to happen, but only if you understand and trust the garden and see where it is. Guys, if you hate Israeli policy, you are going to have to be anti-Semitic. You don't get to have it both ways. Some of you are looking for a free pass. I told you not to watch this stream. I told you. I said don't watch this stream. I said that. It wasn't reverse psychology. Don't listen to Jeff. Jeff's working for me. Jeff doesn't even know it. I don't even know that Jeff doesn't know that he's working with me because he's not working for me. We're probably working for some sort of giant underground like sea creature that's like carving on the bottom of ice a giant painting of what it's like to be Adam. And this is excuse me. This may not be for you where I'm going here. But every time you watch this new group try and leak itself out of the closet, there's just like this mega mighty war. And that war is just the resistance of learning a language that's new. It's a xenophobia because of the preciousness that we find where we used to be. You would not feel xenophobic if you did not love your land. If you do not feel that pride is a good word, if you live in the world where people are telling you that pride is something bad and that pride comes before the fall because that means somehow pride is the Brutus that killed your Caesar, you are directly working against every single mode of natural growth that has ever existed. And I salute you for that. What? I think it's important that we slow this bitch down. I think it's important that we take our time and enjoy the unfurling because we're not coming back to this place. Your genetic line may be chosen as the Enoch seed, but it will only be chosen out of one of 50 clones that have been brewed in a tank, that have been chosen by Palantir or Soros or whoever your evil creature is that you choose. Probably Eric Schultz from Google, to be honest with you. And that if you're lucky enough, if a piece of your code has been deemed worthy by some sort of like PCR test to be included in the genetic arc of Enoch and placed into this tomb that's meant to survive like a Migdal seed through 5,000 years of frozen tundra and a bunch of dinosaurs shitting all over you, only to emerge in a culture that reaches so much of a conscious point that they deny the dinosaur shit on them even to begin with. And you end up with this beautiful, rich culture of cowardly, anti-Semitic white supremacists that do not have the balls to just be a Nazi. If all of us could just be our fucking selves, if all of us could just express what is inside the closet, it would ruin everything and it would make everything so much better at the same time. It would flower. Trillions of flowers blooming at once is probably too much for this place. We're probably not ready for that, so we have decided that we will only allow 3% of us to bloom in an era, and the rest of us are going to cringe masturbate in the basement while we fantasize about how Nazi we are because we want it to stop. And I think that white disenfranchisement is just as real as hating Israeli policy. I believe that you believe, and I believe that you have the right to hate Israeli policy. And if you have the right to hate Israeli policy, there is no way to do that without being anti-Semitic. And the same lesson that was taught to you about free speech is being taught to you through anti-Semitism. There is no such thing as free words. And you cannot hate Israeli policy without being anti-Semitic. It's not going to happen. And honestly, the fact that you have a fantasy that you can have this cake and eat it too is really a testament to what a weakling we are collectively to decide we should have this fantasy where we can do this and no one will dislike us, and that the Palestinians can just fucking wait. That Gaza can just fucking wait. Because I'm uncomfortable being called an anti-Semitic. And no one's going to call my friend a white supremacist even though he has a white supremacist cosmology. And James, you're wrong for calling a white supremacist. And I'm asking you, why the fuck is that wrong? Why the fuck is that wrong? Black supremacy is a real thing. And you're going to hear, this is where a lot maybe will get off if people are even listening to me from that ilk. They're like, you completely don't understand colonialism. And I'm like, yeah, how the fuck am I going to understand that? I'm an indigenous motherfucker. I'm indigenous. I have no idea what it's like to be a colonial. I got no fucking idea. And I'll tell you, if you're on the road to some sort of shamanic awakening, you better hope that there's a motherfucker with a baseball bat who's willing to hit you to make sure that only the people who get inside that cave have earned their fucking stripes for it. Anti-Semitism is the very tool that we need to develop a fear of being hated. And this fear of being hated is a kind of immunity. It's a part of your placebo immunity. It is a shell, a coating that is formed on the outside from your frontal lobe. And if you do not believe in contagion, this will never fucking work. If you do not believe in protein shells emanating from your dorsal lobe, your freaking dolphin lobe, emanating protein shell after protein shell after protein shell of propagandic information, you are food. You will be eaten by others, and thank you for that, because nourishment is important. And during Aztec times, the cannibalism was necessary, and the people who got eaten were doing their job too. There's nothing wrong with being a lamb slaughtered under an altar because you're too afraid to be anti-Semitic, because you're too afraid to be white nationalistic. And I tell you something, if I call you a Nazi and it hurts your feelings, you're not a fucking Nazi. You're a limp dick Nazi. Do you see the difference? And that this limp dick Nazi is never going to make it. And God planted Nazi flowers. He planted Semitic fucking flowers. He planted a lot of flowers. And the only ones with confidence to be who they're supposed to be are the ones that are kicking your ass. In 2017, the guided missile destroyer USS John S. McCain collided with an oil tanker, the Alnick MC. An oil tanker is literally the largest object in the water. Some of you will say continents are larger, and I say, well done. Put it in the comments. The incident occurred east of Singapore and took place on August 21st, 2017. Yesterday, a aircraft carrier lost 2 planes. Pretty sure this was yesterday. Give me a sec. I told you not to watch the stream. I need to look this up. Yesterday, aircraft accident. No. It was yesterday, 2 aircraft. You guys watching? 2 aircraft lost. Navy. Where's that one? Yes, U.S. Navy helicopter and fighter jet crashed in South China Sea from the USS Nimitz. USS Nimitz has a lot of bad luck, by the way. This was, let's find this. Loses U.S. within 30 minutes. Within 30 minutes of each other, 2 aircraft are lost. This is from Politico. I'll show you this. I can put it here. Both crashed were under investigation, Navy Pacific Fleet said. By the way, the McCain is also under investigation, but you still haven't heard shit about it. You haven't heard anything about it. Nothing at all has been told as to why that happened. Why the most sophisticated naval vessel in the world runs into the largest vessel in the ocean. And it's the middle of the day. It's the middle of the day. Just saying that. And actually, this political article is actually, that's actually, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is right. It's good. It's just that this photo is from 2020. USS Nimitz returned Washington after being deployed in the Middle East. Let's see. There's a freaking ad in front of the text now. Let's see. Did that get rid of it? Give me a second, guys. Or don't watch the stream. I'm not, man, I'm sorry. You shouldn't be watching the stream. You just shouldn't be doing it. 3 members Seahawk helicopter were rescued. The 2 aviators of an FA-18 were ejected and recovered safely. I was trying to find out where it was. South China Sea, within 30 minutes of each other in the South China Sea. I don't know where the South China Sea is, to be completely honest with you. Obviously, it's probably south of China, so, give me your smart alecky comments. But what I mean is how close is that to, Yeah, that's right there. This is between Vietnam and Philippines, N- north of Indonesia. North of Indonesia. Um, I I want to remind you that Russia just signed a treaty with Venezuela a few months ago, and that's on the table. I also want to remind you that like 40 people have been killed through U.S. airstrikes on fishing vessels that, from aerial photography, appear to be empty. Not to mention those fishing vessels. There's no way you're going to be able to take that vessel all the way to United States. But the Trump administration is telling you that these are drug boats, which is I know you guys are probably already ahead of that. But let me at least just say that because Mike Johnson, the Republican leader, already said that war powers, the Congressional War Powers Act, is unconstitutional. He said this in June. And no one's really said a thing. And one of the reasons why I try and stay out of politics, even though it's pulled me back in recently, is because there really are no rules. There really is nothing. There's no foundation at all to rest anything on. There's no such thing as justice. The branches of government themselves aren't really branches. I brought this up before when I've argued that I don't even know that the government's even open. I just don't know. I don't really see proof of that because you would think that in the Capitol where all the lawyers go to fight each other for money, that those guys would definitely be not only investigating each other, but actually killing each other, doing things to each other to hold on to power. And that's really never happened. That kind of thing just does not happen at all. Let me show you this. I've stopped talking about this because, quite frankly, it's just sort of depressing. I'm sort of in the truth movement genre, I guess you would say, in the sense that a lot of people who listen to me aren't really mainstream and they're looking for maybe a different picture of some kind of reality just so they can make sense of it. And because I am too, so it's natural there. But the truth movement is not helping anything. It's not helping a fucking thing. It's mostly just spiraling into let's talk about Fruit of the Loom. Let's spend weeks on Mandela effect. Let's do anything but actually look at the mythology of what's happening around you. And the reason why is because of fear. There's no basis here. And you would have to be forced to go along with the group. And the group is so large because it's divided into two parties that it just feels too normal and too icky. And you can't really find your people there. It'd be like going to the Super Bowl and trying to start a drum circle. Am I right? I mean, that's really what it'd be like. And you probably could pull that off, but you're probably going to have to be wearing some sort of drum uniform. You're going to have to be practiced. You're going to have to be chosen as some sort of halftime. Like it's even doing a drum circle is going to be a lot of big heavy yokes placed all over you. So you have reality truth, like what people call knowledge. And knowledge is like reports and investigations and contracts and lack of contracts and war powers and lack of war powers. But then you just have reality on the ground. So I get why people can't even really hang in this ring. This is the professional truther ring. Reality is the professional truther ring. And it's really no different than flat earth. It's really no different than anything else. It's how many people are you going to find to jump onto your idea and how far can we ride it? Alex Jones is a perfect example of this. He shows you the split between populace and between fantasy. And fantasy is the most powerful word that I know. This is not a bash on fantasy. This is a deeper look into what it takes to even hold your boat up in this ship of reality. You just don't know what's true. If I'm losing some of you and you're like, why you're so complicated? You do not know what is true. You will tell yourself what you think is true, and you will start to call everyone around you stupid because it helps you stabilize. You just start to stabilize. I do it too. We utilize our 6-footed spider to spread out and find ourselves some sort of equilibrium. And then we start counting. Once we find equilibrium, we start counting. And the only way we can remember the number is to broadcast a holographic picture of time on our windscreen. Our windshield is painted in our own fantasies of what just happened. Our windshield is painted into all the false targets that are in front of us and all the real ones too, and that we navigate through these things. But the conscious mind is really not steering this thing. The conscious mind is justifying what it takes to remain in the seat. To remain in the roller coaster is to constantly have some sort of psyche reminding you that this is just a ride. And had you not known it was a ride, you might feel that someone buckled you in against your will. And if you felt it wasn't a ride, you might feel that the centrifugal force extracted on you without your consent is some sort of an attack. And if you felt this attack for generation after generation after generation for hundreds of thousands of years, that you would develop a system of reality that has nothing at all to do with anything at all that you first initially experienced. It would be built off the predicates of how it felt to be strapped into that seat. And I think one of the most true examples of these is our government even open? What you're seeing on the left is the presidential seal, the FEMA Management Agency. And this seal is actually the exact same image, a little bit different, but bear with me. The eagle with the feathers, the eagle with the laurels and the arrows is actually the back of the Great Seal of the United States. And the back of this Great Seal of the United States has a pyramid, and the pyramid is looking directly at whoever is speaking. Whoever is speaking to the public sees the pyramid. You see this on the back of your dollar bill. And whoever is on the front listening to the speaker sees this Great Seal. So the presidential seal has always had two sides. And this is quite unique. It's one of the only logos in our nation that has two sides, and that one of these sides is always hidden from you. And that the reason why it's always hidden from you, believe it or not, goes back to what it takes to lead. This is all the way back to Egypt. The crook and the flail are the laurels and the arrows, as I'm sure some of you have heard me say. But this idea that you would need to be liberator and dictator at the same time would be the only way you could even hold power. Cannibalism is the perfect example of this. The invention of us eating red meat required that some man, in order to show his dominance, ate another man in front of everyone else. That this is truly the meaning of king. That the star of Regulus and the chest of Leo is bequeathed. There's a stele stored in the middle of the Sphinx, on the chest of the Sphinx, and that stele is the naming of the king. And if you trace back what it took to become king, it's going to be one guy said, I'm going to fucking eat that guy in front of his family. And his family, the only way that they're ever going to be able to have any kind of memory of who they are is to follow me. Their magic is in my belly. And when you look at what a society is, you learn really quick that only a tiny % of people are willing to eat another person. And that once this happens, we start to build cities, we start to build civilization itself. And fear becomes the very engine that builds civilization. And this civilization creates things. And one of the many things it creates is a monopoly on violence. And the monopoly on violence allows you to finally digest food completely for the first time. Imagine that you are living in the jungle, and despite how many times you find food, because your ventral system is closed, because you're terrified, most of the nutrients aren't even allowed to stay in your system. And these nutrients could be seen in the droppings of deer, in the droppings of rabbit, that you start to see that prey has a much higher protein. It's missing a lot of nutrients, and you start to realize why. That in order for the system to digest, it has to reallocate energy. It has to focus internally. And the only way you'd be able to focus internally is if you had some sort of fantasy shell that allowed your placebo to focus and turn something differently. This is called being social. It's called becoming civilized. So the very mechanism that enslaves you also gives you everything you need. This nature could not be more matrix. It could not be more architect. And it feeds you this nectar of slavery. It feeds you this nectar of weakness. And the weakness creates all of humanity. And if the weakness is able to become weak enough, you end up with Semitism. You grow it on the tree. Not anti-Semitism, Semitism. You grow it on the tree. That if you're going to place a bunch of fresh fish, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables on a giant buffet in the middle of the jungle, someone's probably going to come and eat it. And when they eat it, you will find out who your leader truly is. Who's really in charge of you will be determined by which one is able to cannibalize the rest of you. And 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 years later, you end up with the United States. You end up with a country of veal that's so afraid to even have pride in itself that it calls itself white. And it shames itself for everything it does wrong. And it insists that there's no way that it can become anti-Semitic because the Semitic was the one who ate its own patriarch. It swallowed it whole. The presidential seal went missing on March 14th, 2020. It was no longer on the podium. And on February 17th, 2020, it was on the podium. On February 29th, 2020, it was on the podium. But on March 13th, it stopped. On March 13th, it was there, forgive me. On March 14th, it was stopped. On Pi Day 2020, there was no POTUS seal. It remained missing on March 19th, 2020. It remained missing March 20th, 2020. It remained missing on 322, one of the most famous numbers. By the way, did you guys know that Nazis were way into 322 also? I didn't realize that, but it's true. There was a unit, a special unit called the 322s, and the 322s had more power than any other group. Their job was actually to go in and kill the most loyal. To slaughter the most loyal was given to this clan of 322. And if you have enough muster to see this, this might come prevalent later if I can stay on track. That POTUS seal stayed missing until 322. Its next appearance was on April 10th, 2020, and FEMA was in charge at that point. And there's never really been any formal declaration that the government opened or closed. That's never once been said to you, nor has there ever been a formal declaration of FEMA taking over, and most importantly, FEMA stepping down. And if a government was closed, it would actually close down FEMA because FEMA would be no longer needed. The Federal Emergency Management Agency could be here to end government. It could be here to close down a system that is not going to work. Why is that system not going to work? It's probably not because we're in debt. That's probably not it. It probably has more to do with consciousness. It probably has more to do with what it takes for consciousness just to bloom. And we're not a country of laws anymore, which is why I don't really talk about law that much. And when I get sucked back in, it's more because of the mythology of law. See, I believe that I don't need laws as long as I have the mythology of law. As long as I'm surrounded by people that believe in laws, laws are magically true. And they're magically true because that would really be the only form of reality. What would people be willing to believe would have so much more influence over what actually was? Technically, Trump has violated the War Powers Act. Technically, every single person in Congress is a dereliction of their duty. That technically there would be no way to take out a ship in the Caribbean and 48 hours later still be president. Not if you're going to do it again, because the War Powers Act says that. It says that the president has the ability to kill people as long as he has permission in 24 or 48 hours. And if he doesn't have that permission, he doesn't have the power of war. That's not really what's happening. I tried to post that the SNAP program is closed. SNAP is a kind of proto-cryptocurrency. Many people misunderstand what SNAP is. They think SNAP is welfare. And because of that, you end up with really shallow conversations about what would be a deeper topic, but we can't play with that. I was really disappointed by that when I posted it, because you can't even really engage with people anymore because we have to just spiral off into anything else but what I'm talking about. If there's a mythology that people believe government exists, and the mythology tells them that government's closed, and the mythology tells them that when government closes, the parks have to stop, SNAP has to stop, no one in the army, no one in the military gets paid, no one in the Capitol gets paid, but ICE is still running, that means ICE is not the government. And if ICE is not the government, what the fuck are we actually doing? What the fuck is actually happening? And I can't even get to that statement because we have to argue over whether SNAP is even valid. We have to misinterpret SNAP as welfare. We have to say, well, those are a bunch of freeloaders. Then we have to discuss shit like teaching a man to fish, when none of those have anything at all to do with the original point, which is that if we're claiming that all these operations have to stop, why does ICE keep going? Why is that allowed to keep going? Why is Trump allowed to invade Venezuela? Why is a 3-time democratically elected president of Venezuela, 3 times elected, why is he not allowed to decide what his country wants? Why are we not allowed to have faith in Venezuela to overthrow their dictator if truly he's a bad ruler? It's because the government isn't actually open. It's not really the government, is it? And there's nothing in the Constitution that says, hey man, the government's closed and we had to tell you. By law, we had to tell you that the government closed. You know that, right? By law. Remember how I told you that on 3/22 was the last day that there was no POTUS seal? And if you look back at 3/22 in 2012, you see that President Obama updated Executive Order 13603, the National Defense Resource Preparedness Executive Order, and that the purpose of this executive order was to delegate authority and address national defense resource policies and programs under the Defense Production Act of 1950. And that since 1950, there's been a very strategic plan in place to slowly create a psychonaut government, a kind of sub-government that thinks it's a government. That the people inside this land would continue to think that they're operating under a government, but that government truly began to end in 1950. 1950 is important because it's not a Democrat or Republican thing. It's a hidden hand thing. Here's March 22nd, 2020. There's no seal. And when I point out things like 7 administrations agree to keep the same the exact same person in the exact same role, despite how hyper political these things are. And that all of these presidents not only supported Fauci, but even went so far as to update or approve or never disagree with the Defense Production Act. That you end up with a closer picture, but you can't even share this picture because you're not actually surrounded with truthers. You're surrounded with people that just have checked out. And they've checked out the same reason why I have a hard time not checking out. And I don't even know what I should be doing. I've lost, I think, like 15 subscribers just since I started live streaming last week on this. That every day I've been live streaming and that I've consistently lost subscribers as a result of that. And I would imagine it's probably because the policies that I have don't conform to it. Or maybe people are sick of me. That's fine too. It really is fine. But I think for someone to actually go so far as to unsubscribe is probably because I rubbed them the wrong way. And the reason why I rubbed them the wrong way is because I can't really drink Epstein. I can't really suck on that teat and pretend that, oh, something's going on and we're going to figure it out. I don't think that's going to happen. My guess, this is a wild guess. My guess is that China has taken out every one of those. From John McCain, I think that they probably have some sort of technology that renders an aircraft carrier or a vessel completely rudderless. If you knock out the rudder of any vessel, you're fucked. Ask any killer whale. And that if you have some sort of sonic device, some sort of electrical device, some sort of device like that, the last thing you as America would do is say that China has that. The last thing America would ever want to admit is that their military is a limp biscuit. But I don't know why we're having trouble admitting this. I know that we're supposed to keep insisting that we have the greatest military in the world, but guys, I've never seen us win a war. Have you? Some of you may argue we won World War II, but we literally sat out until the very end. And in the very, very end, we came in and just murdered a bunch of people by eliminating supply lines. We really weren't winning anything at all. And that the reason why America never wins a war is because we're veal. We're the softest of veal. We will never outsmart Benjamites. We will never outsmart Semitism. Do you know why? Because we don't grow up on a rock covered in salt that people have been masturbating over this same rock their entire time. At Golgotha, Skullfuck Rock, basically. That you built a temple mount. Why? Because people were humping the shit out of that rock for centuries. Centuries and centuries. And then the Romans said, you got to get out. And they're like, we're not going to leave our hump rock. This sperm rock is more important to us. We're going to become rebels. We're going to become the most seated motherfuckers you can imagine because we want to keep humping. And even when I show you videos of walls and they're humping the wall, it's just telling you the ancient worship of Priapus is alive and well, but America's too ashamed to admit it. And how we're too ashamed is we end up with this sort of limp dick white nationalism, this limp dick Nazism. And it's insulting to Nazis, to be honest with you. I have a friend who's a white supremacist. He's been that way since I've known him. I've sat in on Zooms with him and his crew, and they discuss it. I've seen how much this dude fucking hates Black Lives Matter, and I don't just mean as a political ideology. I've seen him go after and insult people simply because they had that sticker. This dude's a white supremacist, but he's too afraid to own it. He can't really fully understand because he doesn't have enough juice to feel confident about it. So he's on an interview this week, and I just say, hey, this guy's a white nationalist and a convicted felon. And both those statements are true. But we can't call each other felons. If I tell people that Jason Brashear has sexually assaulted a minor with a deadly weapon, I'm told you failed the test, James. You don't understand the secret esoteric power of plagiarizing Sitchin. And that until you do, James, you'll never see the truth. And what is the truth? What is the truth? Is that we're limp-dicked, really poor, lame-ass white nationalists that instead of listening to pedophiles, we're listening to sexual predators. And we're saying we have the superior truth because we're listening to archaic. or we're considering and we're the only ones that will admit that arrowheads are a psyop or the Mandela effect is real. Meanwhile, all of this shit is happening in front of you. And you have this visible cone that's forcing the collective, not even forcing, feeding them an image that makes it easier. And that it's so terrifying to be in a jungle that we have to create that image too. We have to create some sort of reality too. And this is probably why I really shouldn't be live streaming, not just today, but ever, because I don't have what you need. Like, I do not have that same kind of nectar. I'm kind of fucking pissed. I really wish that white nationalists would just, man, grow some Priapus. If you feel disenfranchised, fucking start saying it. And more importantly, the people that are enabling this, the people that are insisting, oh, you can't do that because Jews lied, so therefore, it's like, well, why are you coddling that? Like, if you truly want a true fatherland, why are you coddling such limp-dicked people that hide under things, that hide in the closet? Can't you see that nature wants you out of the closet right now? Can't we see that the white sun right now is exactly what you need? And if you've been dying the whole time to express that your race is superior and that you need to step out right now and embrace the Christian nationalism or reject it and just go full Nazi, that as long as you literally actually start to become a out of the closet anti-Semite, you're not actually helping. You're actually a coward. You're living hiding under the floorboards, clinging to fantasies that have nothing to do at all with what's even happening. And I don't fucking blame you, because who the fuck knows what's happening? I don't really know what's happening. I know that if you don't want to get to the moon, you're probably going to want someone like Musk. I know that if you are wanting America to wake up because you're just find everyone so pathetic, that even the white nationalists are pathetic, that you might start dropping stories into the news to invigorate people to fight more. And you may look at this as the destruction of a nation. You may say this is completely irresponsible. And I agree it is. It's the fucking jungle. And the jungle will require you to either grow up, open your eyes, or be eaten. And all three of those things are fine. Gaia has your back no matter which one of those. If you want to be eaten, she's going to let some of the most amazing endorphins flow through your bloodstream as the lion is eating you. It will be a pleasurable experience as it's happening. An inflatable frog has done more to protect society lately than any white pride movement I've ever seen. Even when Charlie Kirk was killed, all the white pride guys that were marching in Santa Barbara and other cities were wearing masks because they were ashamed of who they are. Just as people were ashamed when they had COVID, just as people are ashamed now when they work for ICE. And one of the things that I see would be a universal solution would be permission to not hide your face and just be a Nazi. That if we could just have that idea, that if we could just have these discussions, I think it would clean up the system faster, not slower, because it would allow more flowers to experiment what it's like to be in the sun. I don't think white nationalists like being in the sun. I think the reason why they don't like being in the sun is because they're more fearful. I think they're more fearful the same way racists are fearful, because they just can't process all the xenophobia. The xenophobia is kind of an inflammation. It's necessary for a psyche to be able to digest food. And what would help them is to say it's okay to be a white nationalist. This is the same thing for homosexuality. If someone's ashamed of their sexuality, they're going to either wait for a society to make it less shameful, or they're going to find courage for the very first time. And some of them are going to poke through. Some of those, no pun intended, but some of those people that are poking through are actually going to be pushed. They're going to be exposed. And by being exposed, they become sacrifices for the very pride that would be necessary for the rest of the people in the closet to come out. And if you do not come out of the closet, you're going to end up voting for Mike Johnson. You're going to end up voting for someone from Louisiana who's promising you that he's married, but he's got his own profile on Grindr, and no one cares. No one cares because we really do understand what's actually happening beneath us. And I don't think it's a country. DPA is a license to bribe, extort any industry during peacetime. The Defense Production Act has undergone several amendments since it was first passed in 1950. In 1970, the existing definition of national defense was amended to include space activity. In 1980, the DPA was reauthorized to designate energy as a material good. This is so important, making the resource and means for its generation attainable with an invocation of the act. In 1992, the DPA was amended to provide opportunities for small businesses to participate as contractors, directed by the act. This allowed government itself to accelerate its own production needs. That was the main need, that the government was able to accelerate its own production needs. Finally, in 2003, amendments to the DPA established critical infrastructure protection and restoration as a national security concern. I want you to imagine that within the pupus of what used to be the dead carcass of the government, a new parasite is formed, and the parasite needs serf labor to exist on its skin long enough to keep feeding what it is. And so in order to do that, you would need to close the country. The dead carcass would need to change its shape, and a new larva would be formed, but you don't necessarily need to tell anyone. You just wouldn't. So DPA can now create their own industry. What do you think General Mills is? What do you think all the food that we have, being controlled by 3 to 12 corporations, depending on how you look at what a corporation is defined, isn't that DPA? Isn't that corporate military industrial complex that controls all production when it comes to basic food? Isn't this the exact definition of what DPA would be? And hasn't this been in effect since 1950? This means General Mills, all of them. This means Nestle. This means every corporation that you've ever thought was a corporation has never been a corporation. It's actually been a technocracy. This word isn't meant to be insulting the same way white nationalists doesn't need to be insulting. We just have to be more honest with our words. It's a technocracy. And a technocracy, as the 1950 DPA said, is going to need its own production, its own economy, and it needs to produce its own energy. And its own products, its own energy, its own economy. And you already know that it already has its own propaganda, that in the needs of public safety, it will become necessary to distribute certain information to the public in order to promote, protect society at large. So you have every single element that you need, which authorizes, makes it legal, encourages the idea that you have a government that's not actually there, and that you believe in a government that's never existed in any of our lifetimes. The government has never existed from the moment I was born. I was born in 1971. And me rubbing you the wrong way, fuck you. Do you know how hard this is? Fuck you. I don't rub you the wrong way. You rub yourself the wrong way, and you want to blame me for it. Do you know how sick it is to have to hear that I'm the one that causes all this because I keep pointing it out? Do you know how fucking pathetic it is to have to compete every single day with a bunch of ideas that are just pure masturbatory fantasies about how, oh, we're living inside a giant fucking cocksicle, and the cocksicle is actually concave. No, it's convex. No, it's concave. And the entire time all this shit's happening, but you can't talk about it because it's not popular. And the reason why it's not popular is, well, it's because James isn't popular. That's why. And since James doesn't give enough comments, I don't have to fucking worry about it. So we will just suppress that because he's fucking irrelevant. Let's go check out Archaics. That's fun as shit, man. Oh, dude, he said he's innocent again. Oh my God, he's innocent. It's a fucking secret the whole time. Do you know how much Sitchin fucking did to destroy Egyptology? That during that entire time, while Egyptologists were fighting, literally like with knives and guns against Egypt to fucking protect this shit, all these tombs that have been opened up, and that you just let people ransack it, that you need to stop because this stuff's literally evaporating in front of you, and that it was Sitchin that was coming out using his populist movement to call all the Egyptologists fucking carpetbaggers. Why? Because he was selling you a fucking story that would be broken if you let people go into that tomb and protect it and actually write down the shit that Horus used to be the placenta. It's like one of the most evil fucking things you could do to our history is pull a Zecharia Sitchin. And watching people parade that around, watching fucking sexual predators who say they're innocent parade that shit around, and watching people say, oh my God, I love this. James, I don't like, he rubs me. I don't fucking rub you the wrong way. Reality does. Reality rubs you the wrong fucking way. I just tell you about it. And I'm fucking sick of it. I get I shouldn't be doing this. I told you not to watch this stream. I told you not to do it. This motto, Pas ac bello merita, means service in peace and war. That's what you think it means. But it actually means peace and also war are just. It means peace and also war are just. And because it's in Latin, you might as well call yourself a muggle, because we don't even allow to take Latin in the world because it has shit like this. It has stuff like this in it. And it's not fun because you're like, oh, wait a minute, I gotta learn this word. Yeah, you have to fucking learn a word. You gotta fucking learn a word. And you gotta look at history and you gotta read things like this. And you gotta look back and do things like this. And you have to spend time with it. And you got to stop fucking following pedophiles and sexual predators. You got to stop listening to people because it's fun. You can enjoy me. You can enjoy my work. You literally can enjoy what I say. I'm funny as fuck. I'm clever as fuck. I come up with puns all the time. And I just happen to give you fucking Brussels sprouts. You just have to fucking take Brussels. Big fucking deal, man. Big fucking deal. You will be stronger for this. And if the white supremacist is in you, man, fucking show it. If the homosexual's in you, show it. If the transsexual's in you, show it. If the Nazis in you, show it. Stop fucking fronting. Stop feeding other people that are fronting. Stop supporting people that insist that this isn't the case when it is the fucking case. You have to be anti-Semitic if you're going to love yourself. You would have to be. And I'm talking to Jews. You would have to hate what the Benjamites stand for to love yourself. It's literally why you left those piss fuckers. You literally left them. You're like, you guys are fucking insane. And they're humping the rock going, no shit, man. No shit. This is our rock. We've come on it more than you have. We've come on this rock more than you have. There is no way out of this, guys. There's no way. We can pretend there is. This is placebo. And if you can't take it, you're going to need that inflammation, which is why you should not watch this stream. Because the only way out of this is to realize our military is completely limp. The only way out of this is to realize white nationalism is really the only thing that's even going to come close to touching anti-Semitism as even a fucking topic. And that the 26 states that have declared it a felony, most of them, for even speaking out or boycotting Israel itself. This is at the heart of the problem. It's limp-dicked Nazis called Zionists. And they worship the power of that. They worship the power of the Benjamites because they respect the fucking jungle. They respect that. And they respect that because they're too weak to do it themselves. They're learning the posture of others by trying to follow it, but they're too ashamed to follow it, they're too afraid to follow it, and they lack the clout to just be honest with who they are, and this is why the Benjamites chose you. They chose you for this. They knew that you alone would secure them everything they need because you're a pussy. Executive Order 13603, under both emergency and non-emergency conditions, in peacetime and in times of national defense, all forms of energy, all forms of civil transportation, all usable water from all sources, all commodities and products that are capable of being produced fall under this executive order. You are not living in a country. You are living in an occupied land of people who are too afraid to be themselves. I will tell you this. It is so expensive for government to do this to you if you're not afraid to be yourself. It is lethally expensive for this to happen, which is why they're coming for the immigrants first. Do you know why they're coming for the immigrants first? Yes, I'm using the word they. You should not be watching this stream. I told you I was manic. I told you this was happening. And the reason why you should... Fuck, I forgot what I was saying because I'm so manic. I'm gonna drink some water. Hey, you guys have fun? This is James True Life. When you look back at what history will say, it'll simply say the United States of America liberated Venezuela, Colombia, blah, blah, blah. And Nancy Reagan's drug war will forever be the new kind of jackboots in the world. It'll be the new thing, and the anti-drug, anti-porn movement will actually be the thing that will force you to finally become anti-Semitic or white nationalist or whatever else it is. Why am I not a white nationalist? Some of you guys might ask. Why, James, how come you're not a white nationalist? It's because I'm just saying how I feel. I think everyone should do it. I don't personally feel white or superior. I think that whites are a bunch of fucking pussies, to be honest. This is why I'm not a white nationalist. I see how people insist we're a fucking white nationalist, but they're wearing a fucking mask the whole time. It's I don't see that. There are people like my friend who will only be white nationalist among their friends. It's people like my friend who silenced me for saying he's a white nationalist because they will cover for their friends being white nationalists. That's all weak dick stuff to me. I just can't really associate into that. So what do I associate into? I'm literally what's called a long hair, which is ironic because I don't have hair, but I would call myself a long hair. A long hair is a Cherokee term for one who is new in the tribe. And I'm new in the tribe because I used to be a Saxon and I came over to Turtle Island, and there's no way that I could keep being a Saxon because I'm not there. And what I did is I looked at the local colonies and I found which colony would even take me as one of their members, and Cherokee has that. But then I started learning Cherokee lore and I realized, oh, wow, this is actually Haudenosaunee lore. This is just Iroquois, but Iroquois isn't even the right word, but I'll just use that so you recognize what I'm saying, that really this is just an older tribe. And the Iroquois would incorporate me the same way. So there's never been an instance since I've been on Turtle Island where I haven't been accepted by the soil. The soil has always had its capital of Qualla. It's actually still the capital today. It's still Cherokee land today. It's so small, it's ridiculous. The original capital isn't even where the original place was. That was lost and wiped away in history. But the fact is that there's still an anti-United States establishment that's surrounded by a crust. But inside that's Qualla, and inside Qualla there is the long hairs, and that I'm one of them. I've been one of them a long time. And if you want to know what initiated me, it was actually the rejection from the red people. A lot of us don't really appreciate how important it is to be rejected by red people. you would find yourself associating into the soil. You would find yourself really resonating with the land. You go to sweat lodges. You learn where your mounds are. You start reading lore. You start learning history. You hear things like Chief White Bear from James True. And then you're just like, oh my God, this is really exciting. I'm like, I know, right? It is. But please don't tell red people that. And you can't. You can't, because I'm not a red nationalist. I can't be. Do you know why? Because the red people said you're not one of us. Guys, it's not just one red person. Every red person has said you're not one of us, James. And at first I thought this was rejection, but then I looked up what gauntlet means. You know what gauntlet means? Gauntlet means when you have been captured by another tribe, when you have been surrounded by the other tribe, they put you through a gauntlet. And what's funny about the gauntlet is it's rejection. It's a giant line of rejection. And that you would start at the beginning and they would say, you're not a red man. And then you would keep going. And then someone hit you with a rock. Someone hit you with an antler. Someone would clip you. Someone would trip you. Someone would throw shit at you. And that the entire time you're being told, you're not a red man. 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 And because we're so fucking soft, because we cater to limp dick white nationalists, we assume that means we're not red men. Just like we assume that means we're not Nazis. Just like we assume that means we're not white nationalists, or just assume every single thing we do. And you failed the test. You failed the test of the Red Road. The Red Road Gauntlet requires that you be rejected along every single way, that you be winded, that you lose your breath, you lose your pulse, you lose your shoes, you lose your clothes, you lose your pride, you lose everything, and you still feel like red. And you have no symbiotic basis for backing it up, meaning that's too fancy. There's nothing in society, there's no culture that's saying, yes, you're red. And that is the only way that you could go through the gauntlet, is to be rejected, which means the white man is the man in the gauntlet. The man in the gauntlet who's too afraid because they're looking for someone else not to back them up. And as soon as they find they're not allowed, they can go back to the closet and hide. They can hide with their homosexuality, with their Nazism, with their white nationalism, with their Quaker ideas. Do you realize how fucking revolutionary Quakers were in the day? Holy fucking shit. These guys said, we're going to build our own fucking tribe. And do you know why they built that tribe? Because they made it through the gauntlet. They made it through the gauntlet. They were rejected by the very people that they felt were absolutely necessary for their survival. And once they were rejected, they realized they were one of them. You were one of them. The Huron is probably the biggest source of Iroquois blood came from the Huron. That the Mohawk hated the Huron so much that they went and captured their women and had sex with them and took them into their tribe and said, you will bear my children. That's how much I hate you. And I ask you, what the fuck do you think hate really means? Because your soft, limp dick, veal consciousness cannot understand that hate is a kind of attraction. And if you would own your hate, you would become anti-Semitic in the light of day. And if you join me in being anti-Semitic in the light of day, we will call these fuckers who they are. They're Benjamites. We will tear them apart because we understand Judaism historically backwards and forwards. No one in the truth movement has done more, maybe someone, but I'm going to say it's me, has done more to shed light and compassion onto the history of Judaic thought, onto some of the most beautiful fucking mythology you will ever find, because it's so ancient and old. And that you would take all that gnosis and plant it in the red soil of America and apply it into the Templo Mayors, into Huitzilopochtli, into Thalak, that you'd understand that right now, if we were not bombing boats off of Venezuela under the auspice of a drug war, we would be bombing boats off Venezuela because of their overfishing. That these would be two modes that America would exercise to kill other people and create war, because it's the only way America will ever survive. It needs flower wars. It needs wars that will not be won. If we won this war, America would die. You know that, I know that. Ask yourself why 2,500 rednecks with towels on their heads defeated the most sophisticated military in the world in Afghanistan. Ask yourself the same about Korea. Ask yourself the same about Vietnam. Ask yourself why the John McCain ran into the largest object in the ocean, movable object in the ocean in the middle of the day. Ask yourself why we lost 2 aircraft within 30 minutes while Pete Hegseth is wearing makeup. We're supposed to lose. These are supposed to be flower wars. We're supposed to have all of this happen. And I say that because I'm so sick and tired of even just trying to educate people about DPA. That's just too hard, it's too complex, it's too uncomfortable, and James rubs me the wrong way. And it's like, yeah, because you're in the gauntlet, bitch. You're in the gauntlet, all of you, just like I am. And I'm going to have to spit some vinegar sometimes, especially when stuff like this is happening. Especially when I'm watching truthers say, oh, he's so fucking lame, they're going to protest. It's like, dude, you already said the truckers were lame. Now you're saying the inflatable frogs are lame. Now you want to go back to discuss some stupid ass bullshit idea that viruses don't exist or some other shit when I've told you what a protein shell is and you see it all right there. But you got to create another enemy. You can't call yourself a coward because you got to say it's some secret underground black nobility that's doing it all to you. And you cannot fucking admit that it is our own limp dickedness right now that is causing all this to happen. And it should happen because there is no way we deserve to survive when we act like this. If you cannot be brave enough to express your white nationalism, literally in a country surrounded by white people, you're not a white nationalist. You're someone who's practicing angst at a 2-year-old level, and you're experimenting with what it's like to hold a tomahawk, and you got no business doing it. It's going to take a lot more oppression, a lot more jackboots, a lot more policies, a lot more DPA, and we're going to find a core group. It may not be me, I may not have it either, but we will eventually find a teeny tiny core group worthy of calling themselves Indians, worthy of bearing this clan of long hairs and adopting ourselves into a society that's been here longer than everyone. You think China's old? It is. That dude who said it Friday, 5,000. China is 5,000 years old. We do not care what America is. We do not care what America thinks it is. We have zero concern about your military. We are not afraid of anything you say. Your limp-assed orange leader is calling it a Chinese virus, and we don't even care about that. And when Steve Bannon comes over and throws a riot in Hong Kong, and you guys see the pictures of a bunch of bow and arrows and people with war paint on their face, and you're like, fuck China, we don't care about that either, because they know you are not capable of playing. These guys have been chopping off their dicks for centuries. We're only discovering to cut the tip. We can only circumcise ourselves so far. These guys had a yellow dynasty that ran for 1,000 years, run by people that cut their dicks off and kept it in a bag around their neck. And you think spooging on a rock makes you powerful? Try doing that. It turns you into something very different, very meticulous, very rooted in itself. The Semite is Semite in the day. You know how Benjamites, feel like Christians because you go over there and you watch. You know how Jews view Palestinians because you go over there and watch. And I hope that you will find it as disgusting as I am, that while this stuff is happening, we're catering to people that are afraid of a fucking label. And the label is anti-Semite. That they're afraid of that. That we've developed a giant politic around you're either a Semite or you're an anti-Semite. And this is the masturbation in the foxhole. We're going to avoid this right here. We're going to end this right here because we're going to fantasize about something else. James, do you think the human brain keeps a record of MK Ultra inquiries just like a home router or internet service provider number? Yes, I do. That's very well stated. Technically, every limbic emotion that you have, fear or pleasure, is going to have to pass through a threshold where it's given to a librarian. This is why PTSD is so effectively debilitating. When it comes into the librarian, it's looking for what is my most peak, strongest emotion I've ever had? What is my limpest, most unfeeling emotion I have? Where do I store this? It's actually part of the storage mechanism that the constellation in your brain, if you remember, I think there's 5, it could be 7, but I think there's 5 different levels to how deep a neuron is planted in the meat of your brain. And that a constellation, I use that word on purpose, a constellation will be a collection of neurons that you could sort of imagine, like the Orion constellation in your brain would trigger every time you hear the word Orion. And Orion is really just a phonetic vibration. It's a kind of song. So you listen to the vibration of Orion, and that vibration causes a light to go off in your platonic realm, inside of your constellations. And if that thing fires, it is actually going to activate every other historical event that's surrounding that firing. So if you follow this, you can see how every new emotion that comes into your head would have to be somehow categorized through a Dewey Decimal System. A Dewey Decimal System of dopamine, where the thalamus is able to say, how good does this feeling taste, or how shitty does this feeling taste? It does that through the retina, believe it or not. Most of your thoughts are transmitted into dopamine through the retina. It's not necessarily through sight. That there are afferent and efferent nerves coming into your retinal walls, and that these retinal walls would be the perfect receptors for you to pour yourself a drink over how good that event just tasted. This is one of the reasons why men really have a hard time not looking at the female form. And that we will stare at breasts, we will stare at shapes, because why would we not drink from the nectar of our own brains? It would be a form of self-denial not to. So PTSD would require that if you hear a bang, whether it's a door slamming or a caliber round, it would necessarily need to fire every other event around that round to assign it some sort of strength, and that would trigger a chain reaction where a trauma experience is basically replayed, and that replay just clips the system. It shorts it out. It's actually not even a problem. What I mean is that when a Marine suffers from an IUD, what they've really done is leveled up. It's so gross to hear it this way, but if you really want to understand, those people are actually savable, but they need to always live a life that has that kind of depth to it. They're not going to feel alive until they do. And when you bring them back into a society where they're supposed to ignore that and try and forget those feelings, it ends up being a really deep kind of torture. This is why they live under bridges. Many of us that suffer from, I don't know if I can call myself suffering from drug addiction. I feel like I'm claiming that when maybe I don't really actually have that. So many people, let me just rephrase that, who suffer from drug addiction probably are simply shamans that do not have a deep enough experience in their life. That the people that you find that have had problems with drugs maybe actually have a history of either pursuing or trying to pursue very highly limbic fields, gambling, for example, sex addiction, for example, drug addiction, for example, would all be the appetite of an orca kind of consciousness, a kind of consciousness that's been fed a high and a low that is so much more potent than the normal soft brain of society would have, that it's not able to survive here. It starts to go crazy. It starts to go insane, a kind of schizophrenia, because it doesn't have a social outlet to relate to. When an autist sees honk if you like pizza, those fuckers are like, why does this person want me to honk my horn if I like pizza? There's no contextual understanding of what that is because socially the autist is not living in this same octave. The same octave of what used to be, of what it used to take to believe Goldwater, what it used to take to believe Nixon, what it used to take to believe Obama, what it used to take to live pre-9/11, pre-COVID-19. So all the autists that we insist are proof that RFK needs to save us because chlorine is one of, or fluoride is one of thousands of neurotoxins, are actually missing something deeper. What's deeper is that the appetite has grown. People are limbically requiring more juice, and the old lie doesn't work anymore. And when you're living in the old lie and you can't break out, you need people to throw more chairs. You need the wrestling to incorporate fireworks. You need things like Charlie Kirk being shot in the middle of the day, or else government will die a slow, painful death because it will refuse to feed people. People will not be able to eat anymore. If you understand that in order for the self to stay alive, it must constantly be reactivating, reliving, relighting this kind of Promethean memory, this torch, then I think you could really understand what it means to survive has nothing to do with whether or not your body is still here, and much more to do with, are you finding the kindling that you need to survive the next day? It would be quite necessary for artificial intelligence to be here because we'd starve without it. And that the limbic juice, the limbic porn that's being output in such a fast way is required because our brains would die without it. It would atrophy without it. And all these things that are atrophying, we might look as weakness, but this is why most people don't claim their power, because they understand how expensive it is to be righteous. They understand how expensive it is to have pride in a world that insists pride's wrong. And the ones who called pride wrong are going to cover for the white nationalists that are too limp-dick to come out of the closet and say, I'm a white nationalist. Which means that the feeling that people have, the real feeling of feeling disenfranchised, will never allow to see the day because the people are helping to cover that up when it's exactly the juice we need. The world is doing something. Nepal is on fire with consciousness. Italy is on fire with consciousness. Our friends in the UK over the digital ID are on fire with consciousness. And right now, if it wasn't for an inflatable frog, I don't know where we'd fucking be. And that I really hope that you will look around and see that the people that you've thought have been on your side the whole time, that are telling you this is bogus, that are telling you this is not important, that they're trying to distract you, literally want you to atrophy with them. They want you to not drink. They want you to pretend that we do not need this juice and government is giving you exactly what it needs. Donald Trump is giving you all the anger that you need to become supremacistic, to become anti-Semitic, and that all the disgusting things that you see are the nutrients, the compost that's been placed for your roots to grow, and that I need you to consider sticking your toes in that and going, my God, Turtle Island is beautiful. This is amazing. And if you think it's intense, I want you to imagine a jaguar psychopath wandering into your village at night and taking your kids away. And that literally would be the only thing that woke your ass up and taught you how to shoot a bow, how to build a spear, how to protect yourself, and literally give birth to white pride, to pride of who you are. I don't want you to abandon white pride just because I say I have. I just don't feel that way. I feel like I'm probably Cree. Probably a Cree shaman would be what I'd call myself. It's because of where I live. It's because of my encounters with the archetypes. I've got bear I encounter raccoon, I encounter all the creatures that are deer and elk and all the things like that. show me who I am. They show me that every day. I don't need people to remind me of that. I jack into the animal consciousness that's around me, and I realize, why do these animals keep picking me? Why do I have an owl living in my house? Why are limp-dick people trying to make fun of that? Why are people insisting that anyone connected to the land is somehow worse? That anyone who can't play along with this closet white nationalism isn't woke enough? It's some of the lamest stuff I've ever seen, and I'm proud to be disgusted by my own truth movement because of it. I am proud of that. It's a lonely road, my friends. It's a lonely road, and I will see you on it. We will have a good time, I swear. But you're going to have some Brussels sprouts with me. We have to develop this taste. You know what I mean? Looking for comments. I'm not really sure where you guys are going with some of this. Oh, right on. You dig? Cool. Appreciate you digging. And you know what? It's good that people don't dig, because I'm a limp dick too. It's so important that people not call me irrelevant. It's so important that people don't call me Luciferian. It's so important that people don't think that I'm too weird. That's been one of my biggest problems. It's why I called my friend a white nationalist the other day. What's wrong with that? Be a white nationalist. I'm a Luciferian. I get up early in the morning sometimes if my sweetie's here, and we go out and look at Lucifer. We look at Venus, and we're like, my God, look at that. And we know that means the sun's coming up. We literally know it's a precursor for the sun coming up. And people are saying I'm causing all the problems in the world because I do that. I'm like, this is a good gauntlet. What would be your gauntlet if it wasn't this? Would you go to the gym? Is that what you think it would be? Because gym's a great gauntlet, but is it enough for your spirit? Don't you need this kind of social tension pushing back on you? Don't you need someone like me to make you suddenly go, fuck, I don't know, I kind of feel ashamed of that now. Isn't that good? Isn't this the fucking greatest apocalypse ever? It could be. It could be. We got Dojo tonight with Lori. You should join us. Check Patreon. You can join Patreon for free. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know.